G'day guys, and welcome back to another one. So today we went People's Choice with the next upload of content for the S1K RX build, and we had option of finishing, mechanical, Haltech setup and or engine build. So the People's Choice was engine build. So yeah, we literally took the plates back today from Tony at Hancox Refinishing. He's done a marvellous job doing his usual smoothing and painting and prepping all the plates. Yeah, this surface is just something that is next level for you guys, the OCD guys out there, and just complements Ray's polishing tenfold. So yeah, super grateful for both those lads jumping on board and being able to knock these two main items out of the way for us ahead of Mad Mike Summerbash. So yeah, can't thank them enough. We've got a mix of parts here, Series 5 based engine, Series 5 NA rotors, used JDM import housings. Yeah, normally I would go about porting all of our stuff by hand, so doing our main stage port and our bridges all by hand, but simply because we're merely trying to build a car in a number of weeks, we had the lads over at Green Brothers Racing, Richard and the team, do their CNC NA style bridge and main port to both the primary and secondary plates and ports, and then also their CNC fly cut, and then the exhaust port as well, which I've re-chamfered and give the housings a basic drumming and prep them for use. So they're all cool, ready to go. As you can see, the water seals are all in and fitted. Obviously your standard, your split and your inner band in the coolest spot of the engine up there on the intake side. All the preliminary work done and all cleaned down. A little bit of light staining on this one. We're using a used centre plate, but with good step wear, and then a brand new Series 5 rear plate, and then a new front plate also, which we've got our Series 6 windowed stationary gear in. So I've already done all the pre-assembly work on that, corrected all the oil passageway and aligned all of that, and then it's got a yellow dot bearing in there which is now polished and clearance to the crank. So the crank being a new 4-hole RX8 crank, nothing too fancy here. So this is just a brand new crank straight off the shelf. Deleted front wax pellet hole, so don't run the wax pellet at all, and we've kept the outlet off so you don't even get any bleed by. See the best oil pressure across the board with this method, but it's not for everyone, and that's not in saying that I don't use wax pellet or wax delete pellets on other engines either. So still using single entry oil hole in the back, not cross drilled or anything like that, because it's obviously using the Series 6 gears, so that alleviates the need really to cross drill. And then yeah, brand new Series 5 NA rotors, yellow dot main bearings with the clearances all pre-done. I've sorted all of that off camera, polished bearings, ready to go. Mazda springs and seals everywhere, exclusion of the Apex seals, which we're going to give the Pro seals a nudge. Yeah, Mazda corners and the likes. So you might notice there's a couple of little arrows around there. All that is just my OCD. So when I clearance the side seals, I always put the cut edge to the non-loaded side, and I use the factory Mazda edge on the loaded side. I don't know why, it's just something that I do. and then yeah, obviously their clearance to our spec, and you've got a perfect cut and set up on the side seals themselves. Just get one out. So that's your factory cut edge. And then that's one of our cut edges. We've got a jig that we use to set those up with, and ensures a precise and square cut every time, exactly the same radius as your corner seal. So then you don't have any odd shaped side seal edges or anything like that, where you can let those vital compression gases escape into your crankcase essentially. Yeah, so all ready to go there. Obviously new gen series 5, so they come with the additional side clearance from factory, so no other additional work to these other than the fact that they've been a grant at Rotorsport Racing in Tokoroa for match weighting between the two, and then individual balancing of each, as well as balancing over the whole rotating assembly. Yep, and one of the notable things with using Grant and his service is each rotor is dynamically balanced on their own axes, and they are identical. So the only thing that designates these front and rear is when you come to put them into the engine, and then the way you orientate your oil control ring springs is what gives you your front and rear rotors. But other than that, there is actually no difference. You could swap the two between front and rear with no fault or imbalance. So yeah, that's neat, and he numbers all his rotating assemblies too, so down to nuts and bolts value. If you had a blow up and you damaged one rotor, you could send him a new rotor and he could balance that up on its own without the need to rebalance the whole rotating assembly. So if you need any balancing done in the Bay of Plenty, here's your man. Get a hold of Grant Rotorsport Racing. He'll be happy to help you out with whatever your project is, anything from single rotor through to 6 multi-rotor, anything like that. So yeah. Moving on, we've got all new hardware. We keep all this stuff in stock, so if anyone needs any DIYers out there, you need any parts, whether it be Mazda OEM or hardware, we stock all the Mazda OEM stationary gear bolts, oil pump bolts, pickups, you name it, gaskets, the lot. Brand new front cover plug and spring to suit the 120 psi FD oil regulator, which we've got in the back there. No more squishing regulators, nothing like that, simply not needed. Fit the 120 psi unit after we run it up and we check them, because we validate that they've got 120 psi and they're operating as they should be. And yeah, obviously gone through and set up this rear gear as well, so FD gear, yellow dot bearing, all polished, clearanced, ready to rock and roll. Housings are obviously good to go. So yeah, we're pretty much good here for the engine side of things. Yeah, I've gone through, got all the seals in there, O-rings all in the housings. I'll run the dowels in as we go. Yeah, but for the most part, we'll get stuck into the engine assembly. We've got just our general engine oil that we use, or your engine oil of choice, no fancy lubes to assemble it, and then personal lubricant for myself. Yeah, so we'll set the camera up and we'll get stuck into a bit of a time lapse of sticking the engine together, and I will have a bit of a talk over at any points that I see are valid, and we can yeah, try and give you a little bit of insight into how these things go together. So here you'll see me applying a bit of 3-bond to the lower legs, and then I add engine oil to the crank, bearings, and then the oil control rings, and also the plates in the wear path of the oil control area. I cheaped out on my camera equipment and the flipping thing kept falling forward, so I repositioned it, and then here we go again. We're just same process again. Bit of oil on the bearing journals and the oil path, bringing up each individual apex seal one by one and adding the short and long springs, and the small dab of rubber grease is just to hold the assist piece should it pop away from the main beam, which they are super glued for assembly purposes. And just adding preliminary torque with a T-bar, and then we go through the torque sequence. And then you'll see me here finish up the last of the torque sequence, and then I will clean the tapers, add the rear counterweight, and then use my NGI supplied locking tool and set the rear torque setting on the rear main nut. So there we have the guts of the engine short block all done. Arse end all torqued up, rear nut torqued up, counterweight on. Yeah, I'll work through setting or fitting all the front stack componentry off camera, because yeah, it's pretty lame watching all that go together. All the inflow is already predetermined from a dry stack, so that's all cool, so that'll come together pretty straightforward. As you can see here, also contoured and O-ringed oil pump land, capped off the O&P oil pressure outlet, which is just a little tip, I guess, if you're not already doing it. Most people are not running O&P, so all you're effectively doing by not capping that is bleeding off oil pressure out of the front main stationary gear as it'll run into the front cover area where the O&P is, and then just bypass back to the sump. So that's a good little one to cap. You can either cap it in the front plate or in the front cover, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, but we've gone through, also done all of our heater hose blanks and our upper turbo vent too. Nothing worse than seeing those bulbous little rubbers in there. I hate those things, and no heater in this car. So yeah, I'll work through putting that back together, and we'll come back to this once she's all complete. So there we have the short block with all the bits on it now, ready to rock and roll for the morning. We'll get into the gearbox that's currently dummied in the car, get that out, and get into shortening the shifter and fitting up the new polish bow housing. So engine block has come up sweet, Franklin injector caps in, Franklin oil filter pedestal bypass, so we'll be doing remote filter. Yeah, all set up, ready to go, CAS in and set, so we can do the timing configuration or trigger offset once we get round to actually kicking it in the guts. GB's billet flywheel and a Drew's Automotive clutch, 6-pedal sprung centre puck clutch to suit FC turbo gearbox. Yeah, Drew and the team have jumped on board there with their with one of their heavy duty kits. They're a clutch supplier that we use for pretty much all of our mid-range power sort of turbo builds and NA 13B, 12A, all that sort of stuff. They provide a nice sprung centre pedal clutch and organic options as well, and they can support all makes, models, anything from road strip to drift, the whole 9 yards. So if you're in the market for a clutch or you're having issues, get a hold of the team. They've got a pressure plate dyno, everything required to actually specify and set up a clutch to suit your needs. So yeah, anyway guys, yes, it's been a bit of a long afternoon down here at the shop. Yeah, have to just keep pushing forward though. So yeah, we'll wrap this one up here and we'll reconvene tomorrow and continue on with some mechanical stuff, and yeah, just keep forging ahead. 15 days to go. Let's go.